Hey friends, it's Lil from Embracing the Lovely, and I am super excited to be sharing this tutorial with you today. I'm going to be showing you how to do a landscape digital Bible journaling like you're seeing right now in Photoshop. I don't know any other graphics program, so this is just for Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is go into Photoshop. I am including within this blog post today this freebie, this image for you to do your own digital Bible journaling, and I do hope that you would only use it for personal use and not for any commercial use or any financial gain. So I have opened this up in Photoshop, and what I'm going to do is go to File, Place Embedded, and add this image to my Bible. And it's not covering at the top. I don't know if you can see, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. And just a quick word about copyright. It's still, I don't know if you can see at the top, it's not big enough. I'm just going to enlarge it a tiny bit by hitting Control-T and then stretching it out. This image is on a website called Unsplash, and Unsplash gives you the right to do anything, use it commercially, edit the images. So what I always do is when I go to Unsplash, I always would screenshot the photographer's name, the terms of service, the URL, and all of that, just to make sure that if they ever change their terms of service, that I will be covered. So I'm going to click on this image of the photograph that we just uploaded. I'm going to bring the opacity down a bit. Okay. And maybe just there. I'm going to add a new layer. Whatever, if you're confused when you're in Photoshop and you don't know what you're doing, or if you need a tool, the name to a tool, you could just hover over it. And usually, I don't know why it's not doing it right now, it would tell you what it is. So I'm going to click on a new layers mask. I'm going to click over here to this portion. My layers mask here is white, so I want my brush over here to be black. If my layers mask was black, I would want it to be opposite. I would want it to be white. And if you want to change this, one good way to go from black to white is hit D and then X, D and then X, and it'll also show over here. So what I'm going to do, since this is white, I want my brush to be black, and oops, I'm going to click on my brush. These are soft brushes, but I want a nice sharp brush. So I'm going to go click on that, and I'm going to make my brush bigger by clicking on the brackets key, like that. You can see it getting bigger. Okay, I'm going to hit on Control plus and make my screen, my image, be larger. And then what I'm going to do is with my black brush on my white layers mask, I'm going to, something is wrong here. This is real life, folks. Let me see. Something is wrong. Let me see. Am I in the right? What is wrong? Oh, duh. See, hello. This is just why. Okay, my opacity is at 5%. So I'm telling you, this is real life. So my layers mask is white. I forgot that I changed it. And here is black. So I'm just going to paint. There you go. Sometimes like the silliest things get me so frustrated in Photoshop. I'm going to increase this a little bit so I can see the page edges. It's a little bit hard to see. Okay, so I'm just going to brush off the top layer. And honestly, this is the most tedious part of the job. So if you hit Control plus, you can magnify your image. If you hit Control minus, you can make it go smaller. And if you hit Control 0, it'll go back to the regular size that fits within your window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting out in my layers mask with my black brush on my white layers mask. I'm going to be cutting all of this out. And so it's going to take quite a while, but I'm just going to do that by hand, and I'm going to fast forward that portion of the video up just to make it save time. I've got it. My edges aren't perfect, but I can go back and what I don't know if you were watching, but I would flip back and forth to the black layers, to the black and white brushes, because like sometimes I would accidentally do that. So I would have to flip back over to my white brush and then just fill it in again like this. And then if you could tell by on my screen right now, there's a little bit of a waviness in my brush. So what I usually do for that is I'll make my brush really small and then I'll go in and just use my brush again with a smaller brush. So it just kind of takes away the waviness. So, okay, you get the gist of that. So this is a little bit too dark, I think. So I'm going to reduce the opacity on this to about there. And I'm going to do one more thing. I don't really like this black stripe of the trees and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my layer of my image, and whatever layer I add, whatever layer is clicked on, it's always going to be added right above that. So if I click on my base layer, it's going to add a layer in between those two. So I want it to be on top of my image. So I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to make sure the white brush is clicked, and it is. And I'm going to bring my opacity down. I'm going to bring it down really low. I'm going to get a big brush by right-clicking on my work surface, scrolling down, big soft brush. I don't know what I just said. I think it was something different, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to do one big swipe from left to right. It's a tongue twister. And make it a little bit lighter, the vegetation part. So let me show you before. I think I did 3 swipes. So this is the layer that it's on. And I think that looks much better. Nobody's none the wiser. I'm also going to do another layer and do the same thing, because what I want to do is I want the color to be removed from the center of the spine of the book. So I still have a big brush, and I'm going to just swipe down the center like that. So that's before and that's after. Okay, now I can start adding some text. Let's see, that I'm going to do this. The heavens declare the glory of God. So I'm going to go add a font. I'm going to hit Control T to make it smaller. You could also choose up here with your size of your font, but I just prefer doing Control T. I Control T everything. Do it again. Okay. I'm going to Control J, copy that layer so the text is the same size. Just bring it down. There it goes. Okay, now I want to center these two. So I'm going to go over to the first layer, the first text layer, hit Shift, and then click on the second layer so they're both selected. And to center them, I'm going to go to Image, Layer. My mouse is acting crazy. Okay, go down to Align and do horizontal centers. I'm not going to worry about centering them to the middle of the image, but I just want them to be centered to themselves so they look good. I'm going to move this up by clicking on this layer and hitting my up arrow. One more side. I'm going to do this side. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the glory of God. Let me do that now. Declare. Ah, I didn't hit the check mark. The glory of God. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to center these two to each other. And hit the check mark. By hitting these two layers, hold down Shift, and then click the second layer. I'm going to layer, align, horizontal centers, So these should be centered to each other. That is not centered to each other. Sometimes I don't do what is perfect. So I'm not sure why that's acting like this. So I'm just going to eyeball it for now. Come on. I'm going to try it again. I don't know. Okay, let me check on this. So this size font right here is 73.43. So I'm going to do the same with these. 73.43. And I'm going to hit enter. And it only did one of them. So I think it's this one. Yeah, sorry about that. 73.43. Okay. Let me try. Maybe I was hitting the wrong. Maybe that's what it was. Okay, yeah, this, I don't know what that font is for. I think I did an extra layer, that's why it wasn't aligning them. So let me do this, and this should work. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I knew something was up. Okay, so I'm just going to center these. And if you want, you could center these perfectly to each other. Let me show you just a second. I'm going to bring this up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is these two layers right here that are on the right side of the page, I'm going to group them in to their own folder. So they're highlighted. I'm going to hit Control G, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the next one, Control G. And these are centered, and these are centered to each other. So what I'm going to do is hit the background, select all. I'm going to hit the first group on the bottom, hold down Shift, hit the second group on the top. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier by align, and then do horizontal centers. Nope, I'm going to undo that. That's not the one I wanted. Yeah, this is trial and error sometimes. And there's so many to choose from. Okay, vertical centers. So that is perfectly aligned. So if you can see the little marching ants around the outside of the image, you always want to hit Control D, to get rid of those. And then I'm just going to bring this up to here. And the last thing, I'm not going to add the scripture quotation on the bottom, but the last thing that you want to do is to change your font color, because that's really not standing out. So I'm going to click on my layer of my image to pull a color from there. So I'm going to try this one. I'm going to hit T, go highlight these two, hit that up there and over here, and that'll change the font color. And I'm going to do the same thing for that. Probably should have done it earlier, but you know, it is what it is. And so there, it stands out really nicely. And now the last tweak would probably be, I would probably reduce the opacity of this layer so it's not too overwhelming. And then if you want, you can group these two font layers into another group so they'll act as one entity. And then you could just move them around as one instead of doing them separately. So anyways, I hope that has helped, and I really hope that this is a blessing to you, because you can make such beautiful graphics by doing the landscape digital Bible journaling. So hey, I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and take care. Bye-bye.